Hello, Penny here with another video. Recently in CN, rank 13 skills have come out for multiple characters, and one of the biggest winners is probably Homa. And I think it may be enough to bring Homa back into action. Homa's one of my favorite characters to play. I really like her dynamic play style. There's a lot to do, what you can do, and what you need to know to play her effectively, which is why I think sometimes people sleep on her. Like if you don't really know how her mechanics work, you can give a lot of damage on the table. Like as one of the best bow users, she's a good carrier for longbow of martyrs, which you hit someone with it. It does single target damage, and if you attack with a single target damage, it gives a unique debuff that causes the unit to take an extra 10%, and so that is definitely good. You can see I've been having trouble getting enough longbow of martyrs. I believe increasing it will just increase the physical attack bonus to 10%. Well, actually, let's just go ahead and check to make sure. Yep, 10%. So it's a good bow for her, and I think a lot of people will just stick it on her. And while it's definitely good for the team, if you're like expecting Homa to do damage, it's not a good choice. Her best choice for both for her to do damage and her and for Boro support is melee mega crossbow. 5 stars increases damage by 32%, and like the downside is like each tile you're away from the target, you lose 5%, but at 5 stars it caps at 20%. So even if you're at maximum range, that's a 12% damage boost, which is pretty high compared to other crossbows that have similar downsides. Like this one, good damage, but only if it's out of turn. This one does damage as piercing damage. I don't think I'm not sure, but I don't think it works for follow-up attacks, though I should probably test that later. I never heard anyone using it that way, and like 20% more damage if they have infection. This one's low damage and not particularly good. So the reason why it's important, because one of her big contribution to the party is hovering support. Hovering support lets a unit that does single target attacks do follow-up attacks based on her stats. So I think this might be a mistake that some people make, is they think, okay, since the ally being supported is doing the attacks, I need to boost their damage. But it actually uses Homa stats, so the more physical attack and other buffs you can give her will increase the damage of those follow attacks. And with melee mega crossbow, it takes into consideration how close she is to the enemy being attacked. So even if Rawi is in melee range with the enemy, but Homa's halfway across the map, it would only be 12%. But if Homa is next to the enemy, then then it'll do the full 32%, as probably triggers her follow-up attacks. And Homa has a high speed, one of the fastest among damage dealers. Like, breakers are usually just a little bit lower than her, and as well as most destroyers, though there are some exceptions. So moving her next to an enemy, and then having her attack, and then the other person attack is like the best way to stack up damage. One thing to keep in mind about her follow-up attacks is that Flying Blade Arm Guard, it's a single target active attack. So her and anyone with barrel support, with Balor support, can get an extra trigger. So someone like Tristan, she has some instant skills, so she could use her headbutt, activate berserk mode, throw a flying arm guard, do another headbutt, and then another single target attack, and we'll get like 4 triggers in that turn. Combined with Homa's doing her attack and doing arm guard, that's like 6 triggers. And while it does good damage, especially if you get that many triggers, it's on a base of 40%. I think that caps at 4-star. Yeah. That also has the effect of stealing buffs and energy for Homa. So someone like Tristan stealing 4 energy in certain bosses, that will take out their best attack. And it's also good in combination with Estra, who gets damage boost with when the enemy has less energy. So, that makes her a good pair with Estra, who also does a bunch of single target attacks. There's been some fights where I've had Homa go first, do a flying arm guard and attack. Then Estra does her flying arm guard, and she has a passive where when she does a single target attack at first, she'll attack and steal energy before doing her big attack, and that's enough to deplete most enemies. And now let's talk about her level 13 Ascension skill a bit. So first off, the damage multiplier of Balor goes up 30%, and that's additive. So that means that it goes from 40% to 70%. And since when Balor is assisting someone with hovering support, it increases by 1.5 times. That'll actually increase to 105% damage multiplier. And that's a big boost when you're considering all the assist attacks she can, or support attacks she can trigger. In addition, she gains liberation. 2 layers of liberation after attacking, and I believe that's in relation to Balor attacks. So, if you trigger 5 times Balor in a turn, Homa will go immediately to 10 stacks. You can go up to 20 stacks, and each stack increases the critical hit chance by 2%, maxing out at 10% when releasing Liberation of Shackles, which I'll get to in a second. But, a 10% boost to her crit. It only really applies to Carnival, I believe. But it's still, that will be helpful, because one of Homa's flaws lately is that while she does have some fairly decent AoE attacks, I've used Scatter for certain maps before, but now with like Kavare and Karis and SP Sam, it's really not enough to really stand out. And even if you do use that, since most of her support is based on single target attacks, like Borrow Attack, which I think Borrow Attack might actually be a mistranslation, because I've seen it say as Balor Attack, but maybe that was wrong. It does a single target, physical defense down 3, and blind. And this attack was always her strongest attack in terms of damage, because if it does 80% damage, but then physical defense down 3, and then so when the Balor comes and does the 40% damage to all enemies from 2 tiles, that will be boosted, will be increased thanks to their having less physical defense. In addition, since this is a single target, it will also trigger her trait and do another attack to the central target. And before, with the boost from hovering support, that'd be like 80, 60, 60, which is a pretty good damage. But after the trait increase, that should be 80, 105, 105. And then all of a sudden, her AoE potential, because you can do barrel attack every round, as long as you have the energy. The only tricky thing is that you have to position whoever has Balor in an optimal spot, and since it's Homa's turn, you really can't do that unless you want to use the teleport tactics, which may be more worth it when it boosts up to 105 damage. But she has other options now, which, like I said, I'll be getting to in a bit. So, actually, I might as well go over that now. Just a minor thing to say. Her trait will also, her Ascension skill will also increase her healing effect by 30%. And an additional 30% for targets where Balor is stationed. I believe that would just be the character who has hovering support, which I always found that if you build Homa for attack, her healing skill is actually pretty good. Whoever gets healed by the 70%, and then the 40% follow up usually goes to full, and even the 40%. Remember, it'll get boosted to 60% healing when hovering support is triggered. But again, this also is considered Balor, so it will be boosted in the future to 105% healing. So then add 30% boost to that, and whoever has hovering support will get another 30%. It will be a really strong heal that was when it was already pretty strong before. But so it's still I feel only nice, because if you're using Homa, you shouldn't be using her for her healing. It should be something like a backup, like if if an ally has healing received, the fact that it cures it before attempting to heal them can really save your butt sometimes compared to another healer, or because most healers are slow, except for Coco, who's really fast. Her above average speed can sometimes can be helpful. Like if there's a fast enemy that does damage and then a slower enemy that's going to follow up, Homa could be in the perfect spot to give an emergency healing and keep them alive. But otherwise, you really want to stick to her other skills. So finally, I've mentioned a few times, the biggest change and one that lets her be more effective when it comes to AoE maps, whereas she hasn't been so far, is the Hashalaram Carnival becomes a Liberation of Shackles skill, which means not only will it get that 10%, up to 10% critical boost, it also gains an increase to its traits. So it was already a really solid skill. I guess I should go over that real quick. First off, Homa gains Disturbance, and also whoever has Valor assisting, they also will gain Disturbance. Now these disturbances can actually stack, so if no one has the support, or if someone has the support and you target them, they will gain 2 stacks of disturbance, allowing them to dodge 2 attacks, single target attacks per turn. In addition, they'll do 60% physical AoE damage to all enemies within 2 tiles, and then it will do again based on where Balor is. So if you target a person with Balor or Homa when no one has Balor, it will hit all enemies within 2 tiles and then hit them again for 60%. And additionally applies active skills and passive skills on enemies within target range. And this is good if the enemy is vulnerable to it, because active skills and passive skills are some of the most annoying skills out there. Like if you have, Lucians, you may have felt the frustration of nearly killing one, only for them to transform and gain back 90% of their lost health. The only way you can deal with that is hit them with passive block, and then they won't transform, giving you another 2 turns to kill them. And a lot of enemies, they're dangerous because of their active skills, like the Guardian Immortal. He has an active skill that adds 300% his defense to his attack, and that's why he hits so hard. If he's forced to use his basic attack, he's a lot less dangerous. And then what changes is, one of the issues with this skill is that it has a 4-turn cooldown. The first thing is that its cooldown is reduced by 3 turns. So if you use it, it goes down to 1 turn, and if I'm correct in how the trait skill works, if you can have an ally trigger 4 times, and then Homa throws a flying arm guard on her next turn, it'll be off cooldown, because 1 turn cooldown means it's ready the next turn, and she'll be able to have 10 stacks of liberation again. And of course, she can stack up to 20 stacks, so if you wanted to chain them together, you can just do this over and over again. And then, but that's just a benefit for letting her use it more often. You might not actually want to use it that often. You just might have the option to, and at the very least you can avoid having a 4-turn cooldown. You might be able to do it every other turn, if appropriate. Mix it up with barrel attack. And the reason why you would want to do it every turn, though, is the additional effects the skill gets. First off, it applies physical defense down 3 to enemies that are in range for 2 turns, and blind, which lasts for 1 turn. Now, blind is a disturbance effect, or not, a disruption effect that for single target attacks, there's like a 80% chance to miss, only a 20% chance to hit. But the downside to that is that it doesn't work against AoE skills. While most AoE skills are active skills, so if you also take out their active skills, and then they only have a 20% of hitting with their basic attack, then they become pretty much useless. And since it triggers on the first 60% hit, the second 60%, if it hits the same enemies, will be able to take advantage of that physical attack down 3, physical defense down 3. So, like, if you alternatively, you can try to have it target someone and who doesn't have the lore currently, which will affect a bigger area. So, you know, if you plan ahead and place it right, you could potentially give physical defense down 3 to a bunch of allies, and then if you follow up with a physical AoE unit, like maybe Media, you could really clean up enemies that, and the ones that survive might be useless. Of course, I should point out that a lot of the most dangerous enemies will have immunity to control, or perhaps disruption specifically, but it's less common than being immune to bound. There will be strong enemies that will be immune to bound but won't be immune to disruption, so you can really defang them. And I think that covers pretty much all of them. And if I don't know if I said this up at the top, but if this rank 13 skill just came out in CN, so it will be a while before we get it. So don't think that, oh, I got Homa, she's going to get this really incredible skill that's good for AoE. So maybe I can skip SPCM. Don't think that, because not only is SPCM probably better for, well, she's definitely better for AoE damage dealer. It'll be at least 6 months before you be able to take advantage of that. Another character that has a pretty good rank 13 skill is Kara's, and there's some things about that might be a little bit questionable. I'm hoping that's just the issue with the translation we have, but that's another video, and I appreciate watching this video so far. Thank you, and have a great day.